So, I teach all sorts of different instruments, but like I'm the greatest saxophone player that has ever lived. So there's that. Here you go.
And that's our opener.
It's what we're doing. Come and check it out. It's what we're all about. 561 Music.
Welcome to 561 Music. My name's Ben.
And I'm Hector.
And how, Hector, are you?
Good. I'm doing good, man.
Do the great people of the 561 Music listenership and viewership know about your new tattoo?
I mean, probably. I've only posted it everywhere.
It's great, man.
It's not. Hang on.
It looks like graffiti. It looks like it's like been sprayed on you in a good way.
Yeah, it's not Spyro. It's Figment.
Oh, gotcha. For me, it's just like a cool dragon. I don't even know who Figment is.
Figment is from Disney.
Okay.
In Epcot Center, Figment is the Figment dragon or the Figment creature, I guess, is supposed to represent imagination.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So he's a figurehead of the Imaginarium.
Yep, basically. Actually, he is exactly that.
Okay. I know what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
So this weekend we played at Carson's Tavern.
Yeah.
And that was
bananas, as you say.
That was bananas.
It was bananas, man.
That was bananas.
It was crazy.
And then something that is worth talking about is on Sunday we did another one of those songwriter nights. And
we did. And we had a couple of people that had to drop out for personal reasons and stuff. And you had to scramble and get a few other people in there. And man, I got to tell you, it was good.
Yeah,
it was so
Cheyenne
good.
Lee did such a great job. And Sawyer, he held his own. Sawyer's like a 17, 18-year-old kid, and he really held his own.
Yeah, some of the songs that the two of them were belting out were just really good songs. Good structure, good lyrics, good, just good songs.
Totally. And Billy Doom there playing all of his tunes. I've never seen him do acoustic, and honestly, he's good at it.
I loved my favorite thing with Billy was he would tell his story. He would play the song, and then somewhere, in the middle of a song, or whatever, he'd finish a verse or he'd finish a chorus or something, and then he'd just stop abruptly.
Yeah.
And he'd give you a little more insight on that part of the song or that part of the story or something like that, and then he'd pick right back up where he left
it was like
off.
a shtick.
Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah, I thought he did a great job with that. And everyone else on it was great too. And the one we've got coming up has a fantastic list of people. It's
Sierra Lane,
Joey Caldereo, Samuel King,
yep,
and Ricky Blueface.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's going to be that's going to be a really good one.
Yep.
It's so far so good with those gigs.
And I'm playing a tambourine that night, so no.
So there's one thing I need to broadcast out there is that on Saturday in Lake Worth, I'm being interviewed by Bill Meredith. He's a journalist. He writes for a lot of local papers and national papers. And he's going to talk to me at the Lake Worth Cultural Council at 2 p.m. on Saturday. And he's just going to ask me about this and stuff like that. Yep. And I've never done anything like that before. So if you watch this, that will be tomorrow for you. So come and keep me company, and otherwise I'll be embarrassed that no one showed up. I have no idea what it's going to be like, but I'm just going to talk about, what 561 Music. And if you like the podcast, then, just be more of that, basically, me talking.
Yeah.
All right. Wicked. We have Nik Dee with us today. How's it going?
Hey, I'm good. How are you guys?
Very good. It's been we should have had you on years ago. You're a staple. You're a linchpin of the South Florida scene. I apologize for that.
Thank you. I try to keep low key, so totally understandable. I think.
Witness relocation. I get it.
Right. Yeah, we gotta keep it. This is a lot.
Right.
Okay, you think Nik Dee is a real name? Of course.
Right. No.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, man. It's a pleasure to have you on, and I'm really looking forward to picking your brain about Love Potion Studios because I've always heard such great things, and I've heard great things come out of it. More, which is more important.
Good.
Maybe.
Yes, very good.
And everyone who goes there has good things to say. Ricky is spending a lot of time in there. He's right now. And so, it just seems like a good time to talk to you about it. And Ricky, who's been helping us with booking this thing, he booked you on it, and we were like, oh, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
he asked me about it, and I was like, yeah, of course I want to do that. That sounds awesome. Yeah, please sign me up. You know,
Awesome.
the 8th, I'm there.
Hell yeah.
So,
You're also a musician. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that before we get into the studio stuff.
Sure.
Where did you in terms of like the scene down here? Where did you start with that? Like, how many have you been playing in bands since forever? Down
since forever. I mean, I started playing piano when I was 4, and then just took lessons from then on out. And then I was homeschooled for a while. So I did a bunch of random stuff that homeschooling kids do. It's not always music. I gravitated a little bit towards music, but I did other things. And then when I got to middle school, I joined the band in middle school and did percussion. I actually moved my way to percussion and learned things like marimba, xylophone, vibraphone, because it made a lot of sense to me. I was like, okay, I could hit things, but it's still a piano. I was like, this makes a lot of sense to me. So I did percussion. Then high school, I did a bunch of percussion as well. Marching band, did some drum corps. And then after high school is when I started to get into the rock and roll scene, you know, or just music scene in the community down here. And I actually started, one of my first bands was with Ricky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was actually, oh my God, what was it called? I think it was called Madison in Motion or something like that.
Madison in
And
Motion.
we were like an alt punk rock band maybe, because we were so into like Cobra Starship and Panic at the Disco and all those guys.
So a little bit of like dance punky kind of situation.
Yeah, dance punk. Yeah.
Please tell me you played the marimba in the band.
Oh, not yet. Not in this band. Not in this band. In the Funky Nuggets, yes.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, sick. I got to hear some of that, man. That just sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, if I could find any of it. I don't know where it is anymore.
It's on MySpace.
Yeah.
So how much time between that and the Funky Nuggets is there? Is there anyone that deserves special mention in that gulf of time?
Big time. The second band that Ricky and I joined, I got to make a note of this. While we were in Madison in Motion, we unfortunately, sorry Rick, we had to kick him out of the band. Okay,
Right.
Sorry, buddy. Still feel bad about that one. But after that, we then got together again and joined another band because Madison in Motion just kind of fell apart, you know, as bands do, right?
Yeah.
We started another band, Ricky, myself, and our buddy Marcus, and it was called Tri-Funk Point.
Okay.
That evolved to become a 5-piece with bass and saxophone in it.
Nice.
The bass was actually one of those things where we were going to play. Are you familiar with Duderman?
Yeah.
He does a lot of like the reggae productions and things like that. He was running a joint up in Cocoa Beach called the Chili Pepper, I think, something like that. And he wouldn't let us play without a bass player.
Right.
So we got a bass player and then we played and then it's evolved to that. But Tri-Funk Point is that in between that I think, there's still some content on Spotify and things like that. With that. I actually had someone come up to me the other day at one of my gigs, be like, Tri-Funk Point. And I was like, all right, Nardwar, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, well, where'd you pull that from? What is that? You know,
That's amazing.
It was fun.
Yeah. Actually, Duterman, I'd love to get him on the podcast sometime.
Yeah.
He's always like I don't know him personally, but I know of him. He's ubiquitous, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, buddy, you should come on the podcast. Yes, please. Anyway, keep going, man. What's next?
Oh, so after Tri-Funk, which was a lot of fun, we then got into the Funky Nuggets, and it was like jam stuff. Tri-Funk was a lot of like reggae, funk. I actually don't know what you call it. You'd have to listen to it and come up with your own genre for it, because I'm not really sure. But after that, I kind of got bored of playing like the bubble. The keyboard bubble in reggae music. And, you know, it is what it is. But I got bored of it, and I was like, I want to get more experimental. And I found bands like Fish and things like that in the jam scene. And then I found the jam scene in South Florida, and I found out how big it actually was.
Yeah.
It's way bigger. You know, it's so underground, I feel like sometimes that people don't really get to experience it.
You know, live, it's one of these things because I think I don't like jam bands, but I can't remember a time I've gone to see one and not absolutely loved it.
Well, that's just it.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same way.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like a jam band in a sense, you know, where it's one of those things where you just get with a group of people and you just start, you know, okay, I'm on E. What are you going to do?
Yeah, totally.
You know? Oh, I did this funky thing. Oh, actually, that makes me feel this way. You know, you kind of just, it's kind of like having a conversation in the jazz sense that's not jazz, you know?
No, definitely. It's awesome. And, you know, obviously, just like anything, there can be sort of irritatingly derivative versions of that, and then there's also like incredible, every time I've been, I'm always like, why do I think I don't like this? Every time. It's so weird.
Well, now there are times though when we'd be jamming and we'd be going from E to A to E to A to E to A, while someone's soloing, and it's just like, okay,
we throw a G
what do
in
we
there?
do now? Yeah, what do we? But to be fair, that there's also those type of moments where you kind of got to push past that and say, okay, how do I make this interesting? How do I do something with this? Which I think is kind of like the heart and soul of the jam band thing. It's taking something and kind of making it beautiful with whatever you have to work with.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Killbillies sort of touches into bluegrass quite a lot, and bluegrass crosses over with jam bands a huge amount. Yeah. So it's so that's probably how I've had the most exposure to it. Is kind of like through the back door from bluegrass.
Sure.
And we'll find ourselves playing festivals, and bands that are very jammy bands will be playing them because those kind of bluegrass festivals, you get a lot of that. And I do enjoy it. I think the reason I think I don't like it is because I don't know. I think there's a punk rule that
Sure.
And I can't have somewhere in the back of my head. I'm like, should I adhere to
I'm
that
not
rule?
supposed to like this.
But the reality is, I do like it. I mean, that's the truth.
Yeah.
I do absolutely love it. And it's something that I enjoy doing as well. Jamming is a blast.
It is.
Yeah, and that's how I learned to play guitar well.
Right.
And we do a lot of that in we do a lot of that in Killbillies as well. We jam in Killbillies. There's whole sections that is that.
Right.
But I think there's a difference between that being the band. And then there is a band that jams sometimes. You know what I mean? It's not the exact same thing at all.
No. It is a little different.
And I am curious with jam bands. Is it the jam kind of creates a sound that you find yourselves in a lot? So that aesthetic is why you're called a jam band, or is it because every song is a jam?
I'd say you just kind of find yourself there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Because there are some songs where, like, they are more songy in the sense where it's verse, chorus, quick solo, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, end. You know what I mean? Or whatever it may be. And it's pretty reformed in that sense.
Yeah.
But maybe 10% of the time. The other time it's just we're here to jam. We're here to play 20 minutes.
Okay, that's
of a
awesome.
song.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think maybe in my old age, maybe I need to start looking into this a bit more. Sounds like a good time. And I've seen when I
just be careful. It's kind of like doom scrolling in a sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you'll be jamming. You're like, I like this. I could do this forever. And then you kind of get lost. So
yeah, the last jam band I saw was Tanned at Guanabanas, and they were really good.
Yeah,
they were sick.
They do a really good job.
Yeah, so that, and I've seen Tasty Vibrations. I've seen you playing with Tasty Vibrations, and it's fantastic as well.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
All right, so let's talk about Funky Nuggets then. When did you join them?
Funky Nuggets was, I want to say 2010, 2011, I think. Yeah, it was around then.
And like there was a lot of talk about Funky Nuggets at that time. I feel like you guys were really good, and like what kind of shows did you find yourself playing with that band? Was it like you were telling me a very funny story, actually. I feel like you should tell me that story.
Wait, which was the story?
It was the one about the festival. But we didn't say it on mic.
Yeah. So early on, we wanted to play Aura Music Festival in the early 2000s or 2010s, I guess. But we were in a competition to play the festival. So there were a list of bands, and we had to get more votes than all the bands to play the festival. So we all just pushed it out. Vote for us, vote for us, vote for us. And before the results came in, Frankie, I didn't mention this part to you earlier, but Frankie was talking to the owner of Aura, Daryl from Tanned, and asked him, hey, if we win this thing, can I get naked on stage? And Daryl was like, if you win this thing, I don't care what you do. And Frankie was like, okay. Which, okay. So Frankie then just went into overdrive and was just like, we're gonna win this thing.
Yeah, okay, wicked.
Now, one of the bands that we were up against, it was like us back and forth the whole time, was Pigeons playing ping pong.
Yeah.
Which now, they they booked their, they are on huge tours. They're doing really well. And for good reason. They're a really good band, they rock. But it was us against them. And right at the very end, we won. And we got to play
That's
Aura.
so awesome.
Frankie got naked on stage. and when it happened, we were all like, I brought my marimba. Like I was saying, I had a huge 5-octave marimba. I brought it out. There's a YouTube video of that show at Aura. And
oops, Frankie.
Yeah, Frankie definitely gets naked at that show, and it might still be on YouTube, so it might still be out there, but it might be pulled now. So anyway,
that's awesome.
It was a great show. It was a great time, but yeah, they're on to bigger and better things, and Funky Nuggets is
yeah, and now it's Tasty Vibrations.
Now it's Tasty Vibrations. Yeah.
And what's going on with Tasty Vibrations for the uninitiated?
Oh, we are kicking it into high gear for this year. I know that much. We just released a live album that we recorded when we were on the road in Asheville.
Okay.
At the One Stop.
Isn't it difficult? But I always do that because in Asheville sounds like in Nashville.
Yes, right.
And it happened to me so many times.
Yeah, I had to wait. In Asheville.
Yeah.
I had to enunciate a little bit more. But we were able to get that show recorded, and it was a decent recording, and we had a great performance that night. So we took that, I mixed and mastered it. We just released it on Spotify. I think it sounds really good. We got a lot of good content in there, so we're going to use that to now push.
Yeah.
We just, I think last week, took some pictures with our new drummer, Larry, who I've known since middle school. Him and I used to have the same piano, and he played sax at the time, so he had a sax teacher. We had the same teacher, so him and I have been best friends for 25 years, 20 years now, whatever it may be now too. So now he's drumming with us, and now this is the first band that we've ever been in together. So we're like, why did this take so long?
Yeah.
Like, this is awesome. What were we thinking,
Oh, that's fantastic.
So yeah, we got some new pictures, so we're going to push that out. And Max is working on booking some tours. I know he's looking at the Northeast and later on in the year. We're going back to Asheville in the summer, so...
Oh, man, Asheville got a pummeling, didn't it?
I know.
Yeah, they got hammered.
Yeah, a lot of the places we played up there, you had a real hard time, man. It was rough.
Yeah.
But we got to get back up there, actually. I haven't been there in a minute.
It's so pretty up there.
The next couple of weeks, this month really, the month of January, there's a lot of Hector and I and James and I banging heads to figure out where we're going to go, what we're going to do this year. We're going to go to England, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But then it's like, where else? I think we should do at least one other fun thing. But like the touring is a lot of fun, isn't it?
It is. It's so crazy because there's nothing better than being out on the road with your buds.
Yeah.
Like with your best friends. Like there's literally nothing better.
It's stupid, man. You literally get like no sleep. You get up, you go to you drive, 5-6 hours to another town.
Yeah.
You set up, you do it all over again, and you get no sleep again. And
every day the van gets stinkier and stinkier.
But it's not. Yeah. and yet it's not work though.
No.
Like it's fun
It's
every day.
so fun.
Yeah. It is fun. And it's also the natural progression. It's like, if you don't, what are you doing? You know what I mean? You got to do something.
Right. The next step.
Yeah. That's and that next step is also like infinite. It's kind of like the difference between sort of going to every continent on Earth and then space. It's like you can tour for 30 years and still be going to new places. You know what I mean?
Right. There's so many places out there. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, it's just the only other, it's the thing that's left to do as a band. Once you're good, you've got music and people like you where you live.
Yeah, get out there.
I can't tour for 30 years, man. I'll be 83.
Got people, Willie Nelson, man.
Do it. Yeah, do it. You don't know. The technology's going to advance. It'll get you there.
Yeah, exactly. We can have you in like some kind of machine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It'll just be the head inside the...
I'll be in a wheelchair and it'll be fine. And then I'll actually play an actual cello this time instead of a bass.
Yeah, man. And it just in terms of like the what's the word? Like the morale of the band going on tour occasionally. It's like, okay, we're a thing. You know? Makes you feel like a thing.
It does.
Makes you feel legit.
Yeah.
Whether you are or not, it makes you feel legit.
Especially when you get all the car problems and everything. You're like, it's happening. We could be stuck out here. What do we do? No, it's exciting.
Yeah, man.
It's great, though, to travel the country. It's one of those things that a lot of people don't get to do, and we're very grateful, I think, that we're able to do that and bring the music to, just around.
And it shows you what you're made of too, because it's like,
oh yeah,
you know, once you're out and you're doing it and there's no choice but to do it, you get real creative.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Like you find you can do some things you had no idea you could do, which is really good.
it pushes you. I got some friends that really are at the high level of touring, and they're out there for months at a time, and it's like, okay, that's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, they'll get back, and it's just like they are beat
Yeah.
up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've done really long tours before, but not at the high level, just a lot of tours, like
Right.
a lot of time away. I don't want to do that in my 40s necessarily anymore.
Right.
It's a lot. It's a lifestyle. It's like that's what you are. You know, there's
Yeah.
not that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
It's just you have to stop thinking of your hometown as being the norm.
Right.
You know, you're not there.
Right.
And like you can't expect people to wait for you really that much. It's like, you know, you just have to kind of say goodbye. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is-
and that was one of the things when I first joined Tasty that I was really keen on letting them know, like, because we were playing every weekend in South Florida.
Yeah.
You know, Friday and Saturday, sometimes a Sunday, sometimes a Thursday. You know, and it was every weekend. And sometimes we play the same bar a weekend in a row. You know, back to back. And I was like, guys, we got to stop doing that. You know,
Yeah.
like we got to start branching out. Go to Naples or Tampa. Go to Jacksonville. Go to Orlando. Go to these places and not play here because everyone can expect us to be at right around the corner every weekend. So no one's going to come out and see us.
Well, that's what happens,
You
isn't
know?
it? And you know, we've been accused of that numerous occasions. You know, it's definitely changing this year.
Yeah.
But for sure, it already is. You know, has started changing.
Yeah.
We made a group decision to totally ship the thing. You know, you gotta.
You have to. You got to change it up. You got to spice it up for people and make them want to come see you. You know.
Well, that's just it.
You
That's
know?
just it. I mean, if you're playing, every Thursday or every Friday, Saturday, if you were playing every Friday, Saturday, and it was like, Orlando to Miami, that's a different story. But it's Friday, Saturday, and like pretty much Palm Beach, Martin, maybe St. Lucie, but mostly just Palm Beach and Martin.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Why, let's go see Killbillies tonight. Oh, well, it's not as urgent because I can see them tomorrow night.
Right. It's like having just a channel of only Office reruns. I love The Office, but maybe the fifth time of watching the same episode,
We want to watch Friends sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't even think.
No, never
I
Friends
don't
again.
think having done that reflects that badly on you.
Yeah.
Because once you stop doing that, you have played a bunch of times. People do know loads of your music,
Right.
but you're not anymore.
Right.
And so like then you become as soon as people can't have something that's desirable, it's like artists' art is only valuable after they're dead. Something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why I'm going to fake my own death. So
There
my
you
art will all be
go.
expensive.
And you'll be able to enjoy it.
Right.
The satisfaction of it.
So the real important sort of reason that I'm glad you're on the podcast is because of your studio, Love Potion Studios, which, if anyone doesn't know, is an excellent studio. And, it's one of South Florida's fantastic creative spaces.
Ooh.
And I'd love you to tell us a little bit about it. Like,
Sure.
when did you open? What's a little bit of the history of the place?
Yeah, I mean, right now, Love Potion has been around for, I think this is the 12th year, I want to say, maybe 13 or 14 now. I don't know. It's like my cat. How old's my cat? I don't know. He's just getting older,
Yeah,
it's
sure,
hard
yeah.
to keep track of now. I've had it for so long, but it's in this like RV and boat storage yard that has a building that has some offices in it. And back in 2009, my dad was the manager of the facility, like daytime manager, and he got sick and he needed someone to kind of take over responsibilities. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Sure, I got you. So I started working at the grounds, and I had like a list of all the vacancies, and I saw one of them was in the building, and I had the keys, and I go in there, and sure enough, there's like a room maybe like the size of this room, and there's a wall in the middle with a door frame and a cutout of a window with glue marks that dictated a window. 2 windows were there.
Wow.
And then a tiny port in the bottom hole,
What?
the bottom corner. And I'm like, this was a studio.
Yeah.
This was 100% a studio. And I was
That's
like,
wild.
it's going to be my studio now.
Oh.
So I hit up the owner and I was like, all right, how much you want for this thing? And he gave me a great deal on it back in the day. And I was like, done, easy, cool.
Yeah.
So I just started rehearsing. This was back when I was still doing Tri-Funk Point.
Yeah.
So this is before Funky Nuggets, that long ago. And
that is crazy that it was like already like that sort of the partition was
no,
in
and that's
everything.
why, like, you know, I don't fight things too hard when it just fits. I'm like, okay, that's it. Yeah, that's definitely the move.
It's like
you
I
know?
just walked into my studio like, how can I not do this?
Exactly. And it was Bay number 9. So Love Potion number 9 became the name of it.
Cool.
And it just kind of like, everything just started to kind of fall into place. But it really was like a space, because I was kind of looking for a space, and we had other like, you know, garage door units and things like that, but it just wasn't conducive to like a studio space or a productive, creative space.
Yeah.
Because we'd be in my buddy's bedroom, you know, and he's got an Italian family, so they're just yelling at each other through the walls, you know, about just regular conversation, not yelling at each other. It sounds like they're yelling at each other, but they're just having regular conversation.
I know.
But
I'm married to an Italian lady.
So once again, it like wasn't conducive to like the creative stuff. We'd be jamming on GarageBand and making stuff, but like, nah, let's take that next step. So when we found that spot, it was like, all right, let's move the computer in.
Yeah.
And we built like a little studio, and we did it from the ground up. You know, I had a friend that had a glass place, and I got the glass, and, you know, just started piecing it together.
Yes.
And got the basic things that we needed to just start. And when I first started, it was, okay, who needs to record? $10 an hour.
Yeah.
You know, I got to get my chops down with this thing. And for $10 an hour, you know, how could you beat it? Even if it sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It's $10. What are you going to do? Spend 4 hours, $40? You know, come on.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? So for like the first few years of doing it, that was kind of just what I was doing as I was doing other things and touring and, you know, paying rent on the place. And then one day I was like, all right, it's time to make $35 an hour, you know? And then I got a different level of clientele. And then ever since then, I've just been upgrading and adding things and taking the wall down and making it one space and just kind of, you know, keeping up with the times, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Wicked.
And just kind of doing it like that.
So I mentioned to you before we started recording, and you said, "Oh, I already got this." But I was talking about, which is awesome. But I was saying like that last week I made a video where I made a song in one day, and it was just like a fun thing to try and give people sort of like some enthusiasm to go and do stuff. Yeah. But, you know, I think it would be fun to get like from a slightly more focused and technical perspective, like if you have a home studio and you're trying to record, how would you go about it? What do you think are the things that you need to be good and the things that you doesn't need to be that good? You know, give me some of your wisdom in that regard.
All right. So the experience with this answer, I guess, is going to come from when Ricky and I were freshmen in high school. And in my garage, I had what was called the chill room at the time.
Yeah.
And it was just a small little room. And we'd go in there and hang out. But I had this, it was called an Arcos, and it looked like a thick iPod at the time. Had a 1-inch screen, but you could connect a microphone to it and record onto it. So I was like, let's make an album.
Oh, cool.
What we would do is we would just look around the room and find random things and be like, all right, we're going to make a song with these two things. The first song on the album, which I think was called Duct Tape and Cheese.
Nice.
I think something like that. And it was a didgeridoo, and that was it. So it was called the Didgeridoo Song, and we would it was a minute and a half of just us playing the didgeridoo, singing into it, tapping into it, you know, just like kind of doing the whole thing. And then we found a calculator and then a beanbag chair, and we just used the things around us to kind of make rhythm, right? Because for me, rhythm is always first.
Yeah,
sure.
You got to have a good rhythm. It's got to feel good. It's got to have some movement to it that gets you moving. Once that's good, all right, maybe try some melody or something, and, you know, try to give it some up and down motion. It's like an X and Y axis sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, the melody then came, and that's really, I guess, to answer your question, just look around the room.
Yeah.
Find something that makes a noise, because everything can make a noise, you know, but it's how we operate it. Like this cup, you know, with the water in it, we can make a ton of noise with the water. You know, I could flick it, I could pour it, you know, I could splash it, and then I could flip the cup over, tap on the cup. You know, there's a lot of different ways we could get creative. Mm-hmm. And when we're creating music, that's, I think, the most important thing is being creative in the moment.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a guitar, you know, anyone could pick up the guitar, learn to play it. Same with the keyboard, same with drums. You have all your instruments and notes there, but those are all the same on all the instruments. It doesn't change. So how do we make it more interesting? How do we do something different with it? So create,
I love that, and I was listening to someone talk about that exact thing, and I've been thinking about that a lot recently, which is, why use mics? Why use analog hardware? Why use tube amps? Because it doesn't sound the same as everybody else.
Right.
It's got its own thing. You can be creative with it rather than it just coming out the exact same every time.
Yeah, and you could screw it all up. People ask me all the time, because I have a part-time gig at Guitar Center in Delray. I think it's a great place to meet people and answer questions and just meet the community there. But I get people coming in all the time, asking how I do X, Y, and Z. And my first answer is always, well, it's rock and roll, so you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But here's how I would do it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's just starting off. But at the end of the day, man, it's rock and roll. Yeah. Do whatever you want. Use your ears. If it sounds good, roll with it. Keep going. Yeah. Just move on to the next thing. We don't need to hyperfixate on whatever this might or may not be.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's it. Because people want to sound like people get an idea in mind, a hero in mind, and then they start trying to chase being. They try
to emulate them. Really.
Yeah, they try to be some.
Whether they
someone
try
else.
it or not. I mean, they generally do emulate them.
And I think that there is, there's a lot to be said for that. Like in terms of sort of your goal being to, be able to do the things that someone else can do. Mm-hmm. But by the same token, you have to understand that you will never be that. You'll never be them. You can't be them.
No.
So, learning things from other people is not a bad thing at all. But like,
of course.
I feel like until you embrace the fact that you're you and you just be as much you as you can, you'll never make any good music.
Yeah. I agree with that one.
Yeah.
Half the time when I'm recording someone in the studio, it's half the time I'm an engineer, half the time I'm a therapist.
Yeah.
Because people have walls that they don't even know are up.
Yeah.
And blocks that they don't even realize are causing them to not figure out the rest of that line in the lyrics. So half the time it's up to me to say, well, hang on a sec, dude, you all right? What's going on? What happened? I feel like, you're feeling this way. You want to talk about it for a sec? And it's getting them to kind of break down a little bit so that they understand themselves.
Yeah.
So that they know how to approach whatever they're trying to approach.
Yeah.
I get that at Guitar Center where people come in and they're like, I want to get X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, no, you don't. You think you do, but you don't. Let me ask you some questions and then we'll figure out what you need. Because people see things and they're like, I need those KRK monitors with the yellow thing on it. And I'm like, no, you don't. Those sound bad. Don't get those.
I fell for that when I was like 18.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Same with the Focusrite stuff. The new Focusrite stuff. Anyway.
I did that with PA stuff, man. The speakers we have now for the PA, that's probably like the 9th or 10th PA system that I went through because I was always, everybody has the Mackie Thump, so I should get those. Sure. Yeah, those are great for DJs, but they're terrible for bands,
right?
Yeah. And it's, I went through like every phase of like everybody got this or everybody got that. And then I was like, why does everybody have that? That's terrible.
So, and that's just the thing, like there is something to that because as long as there's an intent with it, like for instance, like when we talk about headphones, just studio headphones or whatever, people ask me, which ones are your favorite? And I go, whichever one's the comfiest. Yeah. Because the longer I could wear them, the more work I could get done with them or what have you. I'm not going to be bothered by them. But also, the Audio-Technica M50Xs or whatever, I like using those because I know Phineas used those when he recorded Billie Eilish's album.
Right, yeah.
And if he's doing that to get her sound, okay, well, I could use that as a metric to say, okay, one of the better pop albums circulating right now, was kind of created while tracking with these headphones. So I know if I use these headphones, I could get a good translation, later on, I think.
Yeah, for sure. It's and this is sort of leads really exactly perfectly into something I wanted to ask you. It's like in terms of sort of lower price to mid-level gear.
Yeah.
If someone's kind of getting into the getting into it, like, do you have any sort of like, if someone was going to get an interface, is there anything they should get, anything they shouldn't get?
Yeah. So interface-wise, if you're just getting introduced to it, it's tough because obviously budgets are budgets and you can only work with what you can work with. But right now, I think one of the better interfaces, like the SSL, the 2+, that little thing, it's a fantastic interface. It's bus powered, sounds really clean. It could get loud, it could handle SM7s. It's very versatile, especially for the price point that you're at. You know what I mean? Focusrites, I don't bother with. PreSonus, if you're looking for a $100 interface, get the PreSonus one.
Right, yeah.
Fine. You know what I mean? The cheap stuff is exactly that. It's meant to be consumer friendly. It's meant to just get something in your hands. You know, so if you're if it's your first time recording or trying this studio at home thing, just get the PreSonus one. Get something cheap that you're going to have problems with. Because you need to learn how to troubleshoot. Right? Especially if you want to do it at home. Right? It's just one of those things.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, because people come in all the time. They're like, I want to get the studio. And I'm like, no, save your money. Hire me. You be the musician. I'll be the engineer. We'll all have fun. You know, it's one of those things. But at the same time, I'm also like, yo, do it. Go home. Learn the stuff yourself, right? I want you to learn how to do it yourself, right? Because then I could come in and just do what I love to do and like produce, you know, something and then get creative with it where we're not bogged down by, oh, you're using a 2015 Mac Air or MacBook Air or whatever. That's not powerful enough to do anything. You know, it's like, it's nowadays, it's the technology, right? So it's going to be the computer, making sure that the computer is first and foremost the most powerful thing that you have in your arsenal. Because the rest, because if you don't, that creative workflow in the moment will hinder you with a crappy computer.
For sure.
So interface-wise,
But when I got my computer, I tried to just get the biggest one at the time, and it's still, now I got to get another one, you know what I mean? Time marches on with that stuff.
I do so much research with this stuff before I get it, and I go so deep into Reddit and all that sort of stuff that like, oh my God, I love regurgitating this stuff to people because I've just taken in so much of it that like, you know, I know which which MacBook M1, M2, M3, M4 system you need for which DAW you're using.
Oh, interesting. So what about if you're using Logic?
If you're Logic, you want an M1 or an M4 Pro.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Because what happened with the M processors, they're way better than the Intel stuff. But what happened was the M1 processor has like 6 performance cores and 2 efficiency cores. And what we find is DAWs like Logic and Ableton only use performance cores. Right. They don't even use the efficiency stuff.
Interesting.
Pro Tools, FL Studio, the Studio One, they use a combination of both. So it really doesn't matter if you're using those DAWs. Any system will be pretty good. But the M1 stuff had the most cores of performance. So for me, I'm still rocking an M1.
And so the only way you can do it is get all the way to the M4 Pro. It has this
because even the M4 just by itself, you still get an M1. You're going to be rocking and rolling. It's going to be way cheaper. You could get the extra RAM. And still pay less than a regular M4 Mac Mini or whatever it's going to be now.
That's interesting.
But the M4 Pro, that is an upgrade in performance cores. So if you're using Logic or Ableton, the M4 Pro is the new one's killer.
It's wild to hear you say like, talking about technology, and obviously in all industries, you want to keep up with the latest technology as best you can.
Sure.
And as best that your budget allows.
Yes.
But it's funny to hear you say like, you have to, like you're saying, just a couple of years ago, you got the best laptop you can possibly buy, and you're already thinking you need to upgrade, and that it just evolves and changes that much. I mean, I come from a graphic arts background, and I mean, and I use all the top programs, and I use them very robustly, and I had an iMac for 10 years, and then eventually I got rid of the iMac. And in 2000, funny because you said 2015. In 2015, I bought a laptop. Now it was the top of the line, like $4,000, laptop at the time. But I've had it for almost 10 years, and I'm still rocking and rolling with this thing.
Yeah, no, I mean you can, right? You just got to be careful with your updates and what
yeah.
you're updating because Mac is so tight.
Sometimes the updates break it.
Well, that's the thing is Mac is so tight with how they work their OS that when they release their new OS, every third-party company in the mix has to go, oh my God, okay, Mac.
I gotta fix this.
Yeah, since you didn't give us any information about anything at all, we gotta go in and deep dive into your OS to make sure that everything's compatible with you. So it takes time.
I wonder if there's intermediary companies who figure out that for all of those companies and then sell them the information. I'm sure there is.
There might be.
Maybe that's something we should start.
Yeah, right? Seriously. Seems like a lot of paperwork, though.
Yeah, that's true. I use a lot of everyone who's making music at the moment is using a lot of plugins. It's just where all the cool stuff is, and it's the results you can get versus the money you have to spend and stuff. I also have like the odd outside of amps and things. So I have the I have a UA Apollo, but I use the I also have like a preamp, like compressor preamp, like channel strip thing.
Sure.
And that's it's analog and it's got tubes in it and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just curious, do you have much of that stuff, A? And B, do you think, how useful do you think it is these days?
I think it is useful, especially if you're trying to develop your tone.
Yeah.
I think it's super important. Like if you were to open up like Omnisphere or something and pull up a random sound, it's cool to use that sound, but it's cooler when you tweak things in that sound and now you have your own sound.
Right.
I think the same thing applies for this sort of analog approach where we're like, okay, we have this configuration of gear and microphone, and it's special to me because it gets me to sound a certain way.
Yeah. Okay.
Now with like your setup, because you're using an Apollo is kind of like, you don't need any of that analog gear. We made all that analog gear. Now we're just going to emulate it for you with our interface. And they did a really great job with that, with their Unison stuff.
It's so cool how the input, everything changes with the. It's wild.
Oh no, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
At my studio, what I did was I got a lunchbox and got 6 pieces of 500 series gear. So I added like a Neve preamp. I added a few Cappy preamps, and I tried one of those SSL6 preamps. They're really cheap, like $300. It's like a little pre with a little compressor and a little high and low EQ on it. So I'm like, okay, a little channel strip guy. We'll try it out. It's okay. And then I got a Audioscape 3A, which is one of my favorite compressors, the 3A. It's just stupid easy. You move one and then you balance it out with the gain and you're rocking and rolling. It's easy. And then I got a DBX because you can never go wrong with a DBX compressor, And then I have, I have a channel strip and I have some other stuff, but I've routed it all into, I have an old Silverface Apollo with an Apollo Twin that I've linked together with a Behringer ADAT extra 8 inputs.
Gotcha.
So I could rock with, it's so great. I love how I set it up over there. I've got guitar and bass that I already have hooked in to the front, so I could, unison those amps, those great amps that, to emulate. And then I've got all other 4 channels that I could do unison stuff on, plus the twin. And then I have all of my analog gear that I could go in. So pretty much I could have I guess it's like a hybrid analog approach to everything. And really have everything with preamp, with a good preamp and a good compressor.
That's excellent.
So like, I thought like, oh, drums. I'm gonna do drums. I'm gonna record drums. It'll be great at my little space. I have a great relationship with Power Station. I would much rather do it at Power Station, any day of the week. But I still do a pretty good job at my studio doing drums because I have a great analog chain and I use the UA stuff really well. Yeah,
wicked. I think in the fullness of time, as I slowly build up what I'm doing at home, I think I'm just going to get another one of those. If I need to get big, I'll just have 2.
No, it's so easy to link them together. And then you combine your DSP chips, the Shark chips in there, and that's great. But plus with the native stuff that UA released, that has been nice to not need, the Shark chips. So, if you're listening and you want good preamps, check out the Spark stuff or plugins. The Spark stuff sounds really good. once again, you just need a good computer because it is native, so it's going to use your computer's processor.
Yeah, totally. I feel like I really like what you said there about that. Makes a lot of sense to me. Where it's like, if you're searching for your tone.
Yeah.
And it's something that I have thought about, but not a huge amount. And just hearing you say that is going to make me think about it a lot more.
I have heard that like from a lot of people though that I've talked to a lot of people that talk about going and recording somewhere, and they're like, some people have the thought process that like it doesn't matter where you record, like your recording is recording, but it's not. I mean, I know a lot of people that'll tell me, I went to this studio for this, or I went to that studio for that. Every studio has its own, its own feel, its own sound. The whole, the way. I mean, hell, when we went to Memphis and recorded at Sun Studios, I mean, that was a completely different experience than anything I had ever recorded before.
Yeah.
So yeah, every studio definitely has its own footprint, its own sound.
Yeah, for sure. And it's another way of just so long as you're careful and you do things right, it's another way of making like the gear that you have, as opposed to it being like, well, it's not all completely uniform in a bad way. It's like, it's not all completely uniform in a good way.
Right.
Because this, like this, in reality, in a good way,
Yeah.
I think that's,
it's a simple recipe, but you got to stick to the recipe.
Yeah.
You could easily screw it up. I think music and food are like this, they're like one and the same to me half the time.
I know what you mean.
So like that, it's like, okay, it's like a simple grilled cheese. Don't screw it up, it needs to be simple, but there is a certain way you have to do it,
There's two things that I'm wrestling with at the moment. There's two things that I have a tendency to do, but I know I have a tendency to do, so I'm doing it less lately.
Okay.
Which is like putting too much harmonic distortion on everything.
Okay.
And
like on the way in?
On the way in, on the way out, just all over the place.
In the middle, everywhere.
Yeah,
Just everywhere.
Yeah. And over compressing everything.
Sure.
And so I'm just working on
that's
that.
easy to do.
Yeah.
Once we understand compression and we understand how to use it a little bit, we're like, oh, I'm just gonna compress everything.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put a compressor on everything. Highlight the first track, highlight the last track, and just throw a compressor on it. Not always the move. And the same compressor, not always the move.
Yeah.
I've learned that plenty of times.
Yeah. I think it's like that. There's an art to knowing when and when not, and it's often when, right? But then there's an art to knowing when not.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's not about the notes, right? It's about the space in between the notes, because that gives the notes their value, right? That lets you know, okay, the space determines the rhythm and things like that. And the same thing here.
Yeah. Totally.
I still don't understand compression. He's tried to explain it to me like I don't even know how many times. And I have a compressor that I use for my upright. And I don't know how to use it. I just know that there's certain knobs I put in a certain position and like that sounds good.
So what I would do when I first because I work at Guitar Center, I could hit up all these vendors and be like, hey, I work here. Give me all your stuff.
Oh,
and they're like, yeah, take it. And I'm like, okay, cool. They give me NFRs, not for resale. So they normally last a year and I got to renew them, but I have the entire suite of the Universal Audio stuff.
Yeah.
So what I do, and this applies to any plugin, anything, like if you just have stock Logic with all the stock Logic stuff, cool. Go through each plugin, right? Put on your favorite vocal or song or whatever, and then just put on a plugin and move all those knobs. But do it to an extreme. Don't do some pussy shit where you're like, me. You're not going to hear anything. It's not going to do anything. You need to know what this stuff does. I'm going to tell a quick story. When I was working at Power Station, my boss was Tony Bon Jovi at the time. Well, in that particular session.
The guy who did the pine, slotted pine thing, situation.
Yes, exactly. Awesome guy, right? We were doing, I was the engineer, he was doing the production for the Polar Express down in Miami. They were putting on something and we were building the production for it, so I was helping him. And he's like, hey, turn those 2 channels up right there. And I'm like, okay. And I just go like that. He goes, stop. When you stick your dick in your girlfriend, you stick it in this much, you stick it in that much. And I was like, okay. And that was like one of the greatest lessons. Yeah, it was like the greatest lesson I ever learned, right? And from that point on, I was like, fuck am I doing in life? You know what I mean? Like I really gotta, if I want to know what we have to offer, I gotta push it. I gotta get it there to see, because it changes. When you do this, you don't hear the energy hit those speakers the same way when you're pushing in that much electricity through the console and through the speakers. You're hearing things differently at that point, right? And so that little analogy, that philosophy, I tend to apply to a lot of things where it's like, okay, what does this knob do? And I'll crank it, and it's like, oh, okay, that's what it does. And that's how I learned.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. You know, especially with EQs, right? Like with the Fab Filter stuff.
Yeah.
That has been a godsend to me with harmonics, right? So I'll just like, I'll hit a frequency, I'll peak it all the way up, and wait till I hear that like harmonic goat in the background or whatever is squealing, and then I'll just invert it.
Yeah.
And it's gone forever, you know? And I've got like 20 of those sometimes just on the same EQ, and I'm like, it sounds great.
Yeah.
You know? But
Totally. I like doing that. But you're just following it around until you get the whistle or whatever.
yeah, exactly. And you're like, bye.
Oh man. It's something which I just have. I got to get down there and check this place out. I'm such an idiot. We should go and record a song there or something.
Should,
Yeah, totally.
Let's before we kind of stick a fork in this. Who have you had in there? Like who's if someone wants to hear some Love Potion Studios examples, right?
It's varied over the years. I've done a few songs with my buddy Houston, Corey Houston, over there. Some of the earlier stuff we've done in his repertoire. We've done over there. So if you want to check out Houston, there's some earlier stuff that we've completed over there.
Nice.
We're doing some tasty songs right now, so you'll hear those coming out pretty soon.
Wicked. Okay, doing them there.
Yeah. We started at Power Station to record some drums that we brought all over to my place, and then I was like, let me try doing drums at my place, and we did, and it sounded great, and I was like, nice.
Yeah,
wicked. Well done. But then there's guys, I don't know if there's anyone like super popular. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, well, that doesn't matter.
I'm just like trying to think. I mean, I've had Mike Garuli used to be in there a long time ago.
Cool.
We did some solo stuff with him. I've done some guided yoga meditation stuff in
sick,
there.
Really?
Yeah, I've done so much stuff over there. A ton of hip hop stuff,
right? Yeah,
and rap stuff.
Gotcha. Is that something that you enjoy personally?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. I love making the beats.
Yeah.
I'm like a hip hop R&B beat guy.
Right.
Down at my core, I think.
Sure.
And I don't know what it is, but hallelujah, sort of, sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's something that I don't do very much of these days. And it's not just because I don't know what it is. All the work I've been getting, recording people and the bands I'm in just happen to not have much of that going on.
Yeah.
Saying that though, we are starting to a little bit going that way with one of the bands, Hector and I. This band, Bomb the Algorithm, starting to do some more rap type stuff. But yeah, man, it was.
There's one guy that I should mention because he's been one of my longest clients, and we started at Power Station, moved to Love Potion, and ever since COVID, I've been going to his apartment, and we've been recording albums, and he's a little older now. He retired a few years back, and he's always wanted to just make albums and make music because he used to way back in the day. So we started to do that. That was like 6 or 7 years ago, and I just finished mixing, and we got it mastered. I think his like 22nd album.
Holy crap!
Oh, cool.
That we've done. His name's William Delray Floyd.
Right.
And he plays acoustic guitar. And he'll sing. He's an amazing songwriter. He just like spits these things out like it's a Tommy gun. It's crazy. And he'll play some harp and things like that. And then and I'll get like a Logic loop of a drum set up there, so he doesn't have a metronome just clicking away as he records. And I'll cut everything up and chop it up. And then he'll be like, all right, put in a bass. And I'll MIDI a bass in. And then he'll be like, all right. Today was actually, I had him earlier today. He was like, mandolin. And I'm like, all right. So I went to Spitfire Audio and I found a cool mandolin sample and I played some mandolin stuff on it. We have so much fun together.
That's so awesome.
We've become like best friends over these years, just making these albums together, and it's been a wonderful thing.
So in that in that vein or that lane there of you guys are going through and you're adding things in as you go, whatever. Do you find that more people come to you when they're recording and they have their stuff kind of finished and worked out already, or do you find that people actually come in and have like writing sessions, if you will, while they're recording?
I'd say it's more writing sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I do this horrible thing, and I really got to stop, where people will come in, they'll play me something, or they'll do this or that, and I'll go, oh, that kind of reminds me of, and I'll totally screw them up. You know what I mean? And they'll be like, shit, I can't get it out of my head now. So I gotta stop doing that. But oftentimes, like, you'll walk into my studio when you guys come by and you'll see it and you'll be like, what's going on here? Because I wanted it to kind of be like an escape.
Cool.
From the outside world. You walk in the door and now you're in this new creative space. It's totally distracting at first.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, it kind of feels like a bedroom because it's like I kind of keep a little, messy trinkets everywhere and just random stuff that I just collected. It all just kind of lives there.
Yeah.
In the one spot. So you come in and you're kind of like, okay. And just that little bit, I think, changes the approach that you have for the rest of the experience.
Yeah, okay.
Which could be a bad thing, because you could come in with like a game plan and then walk in and be like, okay, not anymore. We got to change the game plan a little bit,
Oh, I like that. That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's something that I've been thinking about just in terms of studio design in general is like, what do you want? What do you want people to feel while you walk in? Because it will change the way they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want it to be like a clean, professional space where they feel like they're just getting it done?
Sure.
Or do you want it to be like a kind of like an escape, stepping into another world? It's two very different things. That
I know. I think that's why I went with my approach, because I really like the idea of being unapologetic for oneself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just be who you are.
Yeah.
Just let it all out, warts and all
man.
sort of stuff,
Yeah.
And because that was my idea for the studio, was kind of have that image, of like the Peter Max Yellow Submarine sort of vibe.
Cool.
To bring that with all the colors and all that sort of stuff. And that's what I brought to the table. So if, you walk in and you feel a certain way about it, you may not have this clean approach anymore, but that's cool. You're working with me. You know what I mean? This is the experience that you're going to get.
I've heard about the place, and I assumed it was that just from the people I know who talked to me about it, and just from a very short conversation I had with you 10 years ago. For some reason, I've just always known that. I don't know why.
Good. Then the point's getting across.
Yeah.
May not be as clear, but it's getting across. So good.
No, it's wicked, man. And best of luck to you. And thanks so much for coming on Five Six One
Thank you
Music.
guys for having me.
Man, absolutely.
Please, I'll come back anytime if you'll have me. And
Nice one.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Man. Yeah.
Take it easy.
Oasis Root Kava Bar is in Seagrape Square on Indiantown Rd, and it is a kava bar. If you don't know anything about kava, it's a Polynesian root that you grind up and you mix with water, and it has been in Polynesia for potentially thousands of years. It's an old thing that they used for kind of ceremonial and also sort of leisure purposes. It's meant to be something where, that brings people together. You all take a shell of kava and chink them together and say bula and have it together like that. It's meant to be something to bring people together. It has a kind of an effect, which is, I guess, a kind of a slightly warming effect. It just kind of makes you feel nice. It's not particularly intoxicating. It's not like drinking alcohol. So the atmosphere in a kava bar is sort of like a cross between a regular bar and a coffee house. It's pretty chill in there. You get all sorts of different types of kava bars. Some of them are more like a club, there's sort of like blacklight and EDM playing. And some of them are more like a cafe. This is one of the cafe type of ones. It's super chill in there. If you're looking for somewhere to, I don't know, maybe go and do some work on your laptop or go and have a chat with friends, it's perfect for that kind of thing. There's a foosball table in there if that's your jam, or baby-foot as they call it in France. Yeah, Jim, the owner, is a really cool guy, and he has very kindly sponsored our podcast. So thank you very much for that, Jim. They also do a poker night in there, all sorts of things going on at Oasis Root. 561 Music is sponsored by Live Music Community. It's where we film the podcast that you're listening to right now, and it's also where I work. Gavin, Hector's son, was a student here for a long time, and in many ways he's the musician he is today because of the teachers at Live Music Community. We taught him not only about his instrument, but also about being in a band, and his band Unemployed Youth accomplished a lot of goals, mostly band etiquette, how to work together, and all of the nitty-gritty that goes into being in a band on a day-to-day basis. The student signs up for lessons, learns their instrument, joins a real band, and decides the direction it goes in. And we can take people from very young age, 6 or 7 years old, all the way up to 80. There's no age limit here. We run an adult program for people who want to be in a band as adults, but really the main focus is on the kids and getting them playing together and in bands. We are also a studio, a live stream venue. We can record audio or video. The Killbillies live album, Warts and All, was recorded here. It was recorded during a live stream that we did during COVID. Justin had a great idea to record live streams during COVID. A ton of bands came in and it was a real success. Outside of that, we can record albums, we can help you with your EPK, and we have full audio-visual capabilities here. LMC is in Palm Beach Gardens on the northwest corner of Military Trail and North Lake Boulevard. And if you go to livemusiccommunity.com, you have all the information you'll need right there.